Hey everybody, so if you're wondering why you just heard the Ghostbusters theme song, that's because I'm about to review Ghostbusters 2 for you today. So, for the Ghostbusters 2, you guys, this came out in 1989. I believe the first film came out in 84, so it came out quite a few years after the first, which also kind of makes a little bit of sense since this film was meant to take place 5 years after the original Ghostbusters. Um, So in Ghostbusters 2, you guys, the Ghostbusters have been around for a while. They're not making a ton of business. They're basically doing whatever they can to make sure that, um, that the business is still making money, that they can still use, like their proto guns, the proton things. All the equipment you saw from the first film, they got to figure out ways to still use that and make business. Um, and they um, they're not doing very well because, like I said, they're kind of strangling. They're all over the place for money. They're going to birthday parties. They're doing public entertainment things with their famous theme song that now is in this film's universe. They're kind of their theme song for their business also. So they're just not doing very well, and but they do get lucky because there's this slime around the city, and if they find out that based off the people's mood, where the slime is around, it's kind of like a mood slime. It's if the people are happy, it doesn't really do anything. It just kind of moves around. But if people are sad and scared and unhappy, um, the mood slime has a very negative reaction. It will do drastic things. It will be aggressive. If there's kind of someone in your past or something that scares you, something in ghost form will come out of the slime and come after you. So, like for an example, in this film, when they're in court for this, this um, trouble they made in the city, they kind of drilled this thing into the street, and they got in trouble for it because the judge was very aggressive, very mean to the Ghostbusters during this court trial. The mood slime reacted to it because they had to bring a sample to court. Um, and basically, these two people that the judge once sent to death on death row have come back to life in ghost form, and they are aggressively after him since the mood slime had a negative reaction to his bad um, and negative mood. Um, so throughout the story, they have to figure out to get rid of this mood slime. They're back in business. People want the Ghostbusters back now. Um, and another thing that's happening too is the mood slime actually got behind a museum painting that the Sigourney Weaver character from the first film, who also has a baby in this film, that she's been taking care of. It's not Bill Murray's son. She apparently had a son with another man. Things weren't working out with the marriage. They're now separated, and things happened with her and the Bill Murray character throughout these years, and things never quite worked out with their relationship. So basically, Bill Murray's jealous of this mystery man that we never get to see in the film that had this child with Sigourney Weaver's character. But she's working. It's not really quite clear if she's working for this museum or if she works on artwork with them and stuff. But there's this museum painting there that the guy who's kind of like her instructor or her boss there. Like I said, I don't know if it's her job or if it's something she likes to do on the side. Um, he basically gets possessed from this museum painting of this mood slime that got behind it and has unleashed this demon from another world, kind of like what happened with the first Ghostbusters with the refrigerator and stuff. Um, but it's happening with this museum painting with this character inside the painting. Um, so he's possessed the boss or manager or whoever he is to basically go fetch out a child so he can walk amongst the earth and live all his human years. And the best way to do it is to go into a child's body and experience the childhood years, the teen years, the adult years, and so on and so forth. So basically, because this guy doesn't seem to, based off what I remember from the film, like he doesn't really have a lot of friends. He doesn't know a lot of people who have kids, but he is aware that Sigourney Weaver does have a baby with her. So what he does is he tries to figure out the best way to get this baby. Like Sigourney Weaver just kind of blows him off. So throughout the film, he goes through drastic measures to get this child from Sigourney Weaver. And so now the Ghostbusters not only have to deal with the mood slime, they also have to deal with basically the kidnapping of a child. So this demon can't walk amongst the earth as Sigourney Weaver's child. So that's basically the premise of Ghostbusters 2. Now on to the positives and negatives, because I actually do have quite a few of them. Rick Moranis and Annie Potts, I believe that's her name. Yeah, Annie Potts. She was Little Bo Peep in the Toy Story films, the first two ones. Um, Rick Moranis appeared in the first film, and so did Annie Potts. Annie Potts was the secretary. Rick Moranis is kind of like the Sigourney Weaver's neighbor kind of thing. They actually have a romantic relationship in this, and it's actually quite interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I almost wish Ivan Reitman played around with it more, because it was just kind of very cute and fun to watch, and it was an interesting way to bring those two characters back, because Rick Moranis was also the lawyer in the court trial when the both Ghostbusters run into road damage problems and stuff. Um, this film nods to the first film a lot, and I actually really like how Ivan Reitman did that. Rather than having the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, it's now a giant walking Statue of Liberty, which, when you see the film, will make more sense. Um, they're always kind of referencing, like Rick Moranis is saying, well, I owe my life to these people because they, saved me from this dog, and he's referencing, the events that happened from the first film. Um, there's scenes where they're always kind of saying, oh, well, we've battled a giant marshmallow man, and we've, done all this, this, and this, and of course they're referencing the first film again. So I really like how Ivan Reitman allowed these characters to kind of nod and almost remember this time that us as the viewers also remember from Ghostbusters 1. This film is very entertaining. I very much enjoyed watching it the whole time. It's definitely not a boring film. So it's definitely an entertaining film, which is always a good thing. I liked the new invention they had for getting rid of ghosts. They did keep kind of those proton guns from the first one, but they also had, because the mood slime was almost kind of immune to them, those proto guns from the first film, they had to find a way to basically get rid of this mood slime a different way with a different invention. And they have a whole new gun that they use for the mood slime scenes, and it was very interesting to see, and I'm kind of glad that Ivan Reitman did something unique and gave a new weapon for the Ghostbusters to use. I thought that was very interesting. Several of the characters from the first film came back, which is always a good thing. I like when sequels keep the characters throughout the series. Fast 5 is kind of an example of that. So Ghostbusters 2 doesn't let you down when it comes to the characters from the first film, because more than likely, most of the characters you remember from Ghostbusters 1 that you really liked are going to come back for this one. They're basically in it. I liked kind of the new start to the ghost business. There was this huge event that happened with the mood slime, and so the Ghostbusters had to come back. I think they went out of business, but then went back into business, and so kind of like this new logo, they kind of had, they called themselves the Ghostbusters too, because they came back, kind of representing this their second time going as the Ghostbusters. So I thought that was kind of a clever way to work in the logo and stuff. Bill Murray's brother has a cameo in this. He plays a doctor at a rehabilitation center, and it's surprisingly a very unique cameo, and it's kind of funny because Bill Murray and his brother actually get to interact in one scene, so it was just a lot of fun to see Bill Murray's brother have a cameo in this. I liked that Sigourney Weaver's relationship with this mysterious man that we never get to meet, and even with her time with Bill Murray romantically, I like how there was some flaws to the relationship, because mostly with these kind of movies, they just kind of keep the romance perfect, and I like how there actually was some flaws to it, and there's she kind of developed as a human being, because she had her positives and her negatives with these relationships, and used it to her best benefit. For the negatives, the special effects are pretty dated in here, so it's definitely not a film that holds up special effects wise. There were a lot of several forced story points in here, like a lot of things where it's just like, oh, okay, well, they just did that just to make the storyline work, which is really too bad, because I think with a better creative writing team involved, or at least if Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis really sat down and thought about certain things, I think that the script would have worked on its own without having to force certain things. There's a lot of recycled stuff from part one. It just a lot of things that feel exactly like the way they played out in part one, which is really too bad because, like I said, with a better script, I think they could have made Ghostbusters 2 stand on its own. It could have been fun, like the first film. It was entertaining, but it just never quite gets to what the first film once was. Yeah, it just never gets to the level of fun of the first film. The villain and villains are not as good in this. You know, the mood slime, the guy that got possessed by this museum painting, the museum painting character, just not as fun villains in this. And it's really too bad because, like I said, with a better script, they really could have made this a lot of fun. There was a lot of unnecessary and boring science in this. There was like a 10-minute scene with Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, who even wrote the script for the film, which is really sad in some ways because they were the creative team behind this movie pretty much. Um, just a lot. They had this like boring and unnecessary science talk about these things that don't even exist, and it's like get on with the storyline. I don't care about any of this. And there was a lot of bad 80s coolisms in this. And what I mean by that is, while you're watching the film, it almost felt like Ivan Reitman felt like he couldn't make this film without adding a new cool rap song about the Ghostbusters in here. And they play it like 5 times in the movie, and it just got really annoying. And it just made it feel like something out of the late 80s, which in this case isn't a good thing, but sometimes it is a good thing. It just felt like every film in that time period couldn't have been made without a cool rap song in it somewhere, and Ghostbusters 2 is definitely a victim of that. I think they would have been fine with just using the original theme again. I mean, that's just use the original theme Ghostbusters. I think people would have been fine with that. So Ghostbusters 2, it does get a 7.5 out of 10 for me. It is an okay film, but it's just never quite the level of the first film, which is kind of a letdown in some ways. So Ghostbusters 2, it's an okay film, not the greatest sequel out there, but it's not a bad sequel either. It's just, I think with a better script, they could have made it a lot more fun. And if Ghostbusters 3 ever does get made, Ivan Reitman and Bill Murray, I hope you're paying attention. Um, I think with a better script and with a more fun element to it, and with a better villain and possibly some new cast members to join the Ghostbusters, I think a Ghostbusters 3 would be a lot of fun. And I hope they really improve upon what Ghostbusters 2 made mistakes on. But like I said, you guys, this is an okay sequel that's not the greatest thing you're probably going to watch, but at the same time, it's not a bad film either.